Welcome to another edition of the Australian Cold Chain Show. I'm Marianne Kinsell, the Executive Officer of the Refrigerated Warehouse and Transport Association of Australia, and I'm proud to represent the Australian Cold Chain. I'd like to introduce you today to an affiliate partner to the Refrigerated Warehouse and Transport Association. There's a new Chief Executive Officer at the Global Cold Chain Alliance, and I'm delighted to introduce my colleague and counterpart in the United States of America, Matt Ott. Welcome, Matt, and thank you for joining us all the way from Washington.
Thank you, Marianne. It's a pleasure to be here. I look forward to talking to you over the next couple of minutes and providing some insight on what we have going on here in the United States.
Thank you very much. How long have you been in the position now, Matt?
So just approaching 7 months. Certainly an interesting time to come and work for this industry. But I'll tell you, out of all the industries to work for, this is a great one. We've really been very responsive to the needs of our citizens here in the U.S. Our member companies have really been essential as we've deemed them here in terms of providing the highest quality goods day in, day out throughout the pandemic. So it's great to be here representing this group.
It's universal, Matt. I think we can all agree from anywhere around the world that the cold chain all over the world has become recognised as something terribly important and regarded as essential services, and we've probably got a bit more airtime than we've ever had before.
Absolutely, couldn't agree more. I think if you said cold chain to people before this, they really have to consider what you were talking about. But now we've really been given the opportunity to talk about all the great work we do. So it's a really great thing.
It is fantastic. Matt, you joined the wonderful team at the GCCA this year. What a year to come on board. Where to start in what must have been a momentous year for you? Can you tell us what effect you feel the presidential election and now a new president will affect the cold chain in the US, please?
Yeah, absolutely. And first and foremost, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure being here. And certainly, as you mentioned, it's been an interesting first 6 months at the helm. And with COVID and everything else, of course, we've also got to deal with the impact of the presidential election, as you mentioned. And I think, first and foremost, we won't be dealing with a tweet first, react later approach to a presidency. So that'll certainly be a change from the past 4 years. But
yes,
before we talk about the presidential election, I think it's also really important to talk about the Senate runoff that we have here in the state of Georgia. There's actually 2 Senate seats that are still available.
Yes.
And really, if the Democrats are successful in taking both those seats, it would really say, it's going to give them control of both the House of Representatives here in Congress as well as the Senate. And that would certainly impact what we're going to see from a policy standpoint moving forward. And it would definitely make it far easier to really advance the agenda of the Democrats here. But really going back to Biden and the Biden administration, I think there's going to be a number of issues that we are going to see that are really going to impact our industry here in the U.S. and could actually have some impact on the rest of the world. Really one of the things that Biden was really focused in on as he was out there and campaigning was climate change. And it really was a focus of his presidential campaign. And, it's definitely going to have an impact on our industry. He had pledged that the U.S. would reach, net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050.
Yes.
I think that it's very likely that one of his first actions as president will be bringing the U.S. back into the Paris Climate Agreement. So that's certainly going to be a change from the past administration. I think there's going to be a tremendous amount of new regulations that curb HFC usage. That's going to have an impact on Freon-based refrigerants. I think we're also going to see a tremendous amount of regulations around refrigerants in general, and that would include ammonia, which would have a huge impact on our industry here in the U.S. In other areas, we expect that a lot of the policies that were implemented by Trump, which in general have been seen to be pretty pro-business, especially related to labor or taxes, they may be reversed. And, we may see things that were more in line with what you saw with an Obama administration. Certainly would have an impact on our industry and the P&L for all the member companies that we have here in the U.S. In other areas, we expect that many of the policies implemented by Trump, also from a trade standpoint and international trade specifically, we may see some changes there. But a lot of that really is going to be determined based on what the Trump administration still does with the last month that it has left. Biden has vowed to work with countries to rewrite our policies and hopefully bring us closer together. But, once again, we'll have to see how many policies, tariffs implemented underneath the Trump administration are really going to continue to hold going into, this next year. But there's just a tremendous amount of issues, and we're definitely going to be monitoring them here in the U.S. And I can tell you that GCCA is certainly be very active in advocating on behalf of our industry, both with the presidential administration and Congress, and also all of our regulatory agencies here in the U.S.
Sure. There's been much talk in the last 10 months of COVID and now the vaccine. How's that affected the American psyche? Do you believe people will jump at the opportunity to get the vaccine, or do you feel that there's going to be a hesitation?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I can tell you today, we just had the first vaccine approval last night here in the U.S. and
wow.
Yeah, we're seeing, from the Pfizer plant in Michigan today, vaccines are already rolling out, waiting to be administered. So I do think it provides a sense of optimism for our country and certainly the world at a time that we really, really need it. But I think we do have a long way to go here in the U.S. Our numbers are still spiking in most portions of our country. Our hospitals and ICUs are filling up, and there's really no sign that that's going to change anytime soon. And I do think it does impact, the American psyche, and certainly, has had an impact, on our country. And the other piece of that is, we're very state-based here in terms of how we approach rules and regulations. And so, to the second part of your question, I think a lot of that's going to be determined by the states and how well they're communicating the importance of getting the vaccine and, how they're making it available. If we're able to do it in a way that it's as accessible as possible and certainly easy to get, I think we're going to be more likely to see adoption and get people, signed up to take the vaccine.
Yeah, that's it's great news. It's that feeling of optimism that's going to be making all the difference, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely, for sure.
Yeah. What's the vaccine availability at the moment? You touched on it. Do you believe that there'll be an issue with the storage and the transport to all that require it around the 52 states?
Yeah, so here in America, I don't think that we're going to have too much of a challenge. By and large, and I think we've seen this across the world, this is somewhat of a bespoke approach to really vaccine administration, and really the distribution channel that's being utilized has really been created just for this purpose. And so, it's hard to say specifically what's going to come. And I don't want to speculate in terms of any challenges that there may be, but based on everything we're seeing, and we've actually had conversations with Operation Warp Speed here, which is the Trump administration appointed group that's trying to put the vaccines in as many people's hands as possible. We're very encouraged by what we're seeing. So we're hopeful that we don't have any hiccups and everything goes as planned.
Again, it must make people feel as if there's something happening that's moving in the right direction for the end of the year, for the end of 2020, and that 2021 would be looking brighter.
Absolutely.
No, that's great news. Matt, always great to speak with you. Thanks for giving us an overview and an idea of how the US is tracking. We wish you all a wonderful festive season and a much better year in the year ahead, 2021.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again for the opportunity. Happy holidays and be ready.
Thank you. We will be back after a short break with better storage systems.